Hello, I'm Jason Lightoller from Woodside, and today I'm going to show you two different methods of inserting zippers into your knitwear so that they look totally flat and smooth as you see in the picture here, where the green arrow is. Now, the insertion of zippers into knitwear has notorious problems associated with it. The main one is the puckering as you see in this picture where the red arrow is. I'm going to show you various different methods you can use to greatly reduce the chance of your zippers puckering in your knitwear.
Now fortunately there are steps you can take to reduce the chance of your garment puckering after you've put the zip in place. The chief one being is that you must launder your garment according to the directions of your yarn. So when you've made up your tension swatch and then you've washed it, you've let it rest, and then you've gone on to make your article, you must do that with your finished garment before you attach this zip. That part of the process is not optional and it's certainly not negotiable. It will not do just to apply a shot of steam to this area. It won't do the same thing. You must wash the garment. You don't, of course, have to have a zip that ends at the top or even starts at the bottom. You can have it just in the middle if you want to, or you can have it starting at the end and ending 3/4 of the way up. The choice is entirely down to you, but it must match at the top and the stops must match at the bottom, wherever abouts you are going to put your zip. Now another way that you can reduce the chance of your garment rippling is if you use an extension. So this would ordinarily be a buttonhole band, but you can just as easy use that for a zip. So if I zoom in here, what you could do is put, as we are going to do in this case, is put the zip behind like that, and you can have the zip teeth there. You could, of course, put the zip in place of buttons and buttonholes and have this as a lapped band, like that. The choice is entirely down to you. Now, a further way that you can greatly reduce the chance of your garment puckering before you actually machine the zip in place is by careful preparation. I really do not advise just taking this zip, putting it on place where your garment is and then taking it to the machine and then just sewing. That is not advisable at all. You must temporarily hold this in place by some mechanism. The mechanism that you choose to use is entirely down to you. You can baste this in place using tailor's basting stitches. You can use dressmaker's tacking stitches. That's entirely down to you. I really do advise against the use of pins. That is not an appropriate way to temporarily hold this zip in place. Although it may look flat, and it will look flat when you've actually put the zip in place, when you hold the garment up in a vertical line against the mannequin, you are more than likely to find ripples. A much more easier and a much more stable way is to use this. Now, this is something called Wonder Tape, and it comes in two widths. It comes in 6mm like this, or 9mm if you want something wider. For the purpose of a zip application, I advise that you use the 6mm. Now, Wonder Tape is an adhesive tape. It's an alginate tape. And alginate just means that it will dissolve when it comes into contact with water. It's double-sided, so one side is sticky and we will put it on one side here and then the other side will stick down onto the garment. And it's perfectly safe to use on any garment at all. And what it will do is it will dissolve as soon as the garment is first washed by the wearer. It is inconspicuous, so in other words, you can't see it once it's in place. And secondly, it's safe to use under the machine. And I'm going to show you how to use it now. So what I'm going to do is just to pull a piece off the roll, and I want a margin of about 5 centimeters from the end of both ends of the zip. So I'm going to cut it short, so I've got this much free of the zip from there to there and from there to there at this end. So we're going to pop that on that end of the zip, and you want it not too close to the zip teeth. So you want it, if I can actually just show you here, if I zoom in here, you want it not too close to this edge of the zip. You want it about 3 millimeters away from this edge of the zip. Let me zoom back out so you can see what I'm doing. So as I've said, I've got a margin of 5 millimeters from this edge of the tape to that edge there, and we're going along and we're just placing it along that edge, and if I pull this across there like that, you can see it. I'm going to stop there, and then we're just going to cut, and as you can see, roughly 5 centimeters, rather, not 5 millimeters, so 5 centimeters from that end to there, and from there to where the zip stop is. So that's that side secure, and the reason why you want this margin from there to there is just so if you need to manipulate the bands in place from the bottom and from the top, and also you're going to need to fold the free end of that end over as we get to the end of the finish line, and I'll show you that as we go along. So that's all pressed down, and what you now do is, if I hold this up, is you need to find the other end and peel that off to reveal the other adhesive side. Now this part isn't particularly easy because the paper does have a tendency to come undone, and it has a tendency to rip if you're not careful. So you need to go slowly like that and all the way down, and if there are any stray bits of paper, I do have one there, what we're going to do is just remove it, and then we're going to pop this onto the garment. There's just another stray piece there, so you mustn't have any paper that's left. So as you can see, all I've got here is the wonder tape, and then making sure that the end here is in line with the end of the band. This goes on like that, and we just press it in place. Make sure that you've obviously got an even margin, and when I say even margin, I'm talking about the distance between the teeth and the edge of the extension, and you press that down, and there we go. That takes the place of tacks, it takes the place of basting stitches, and it certainly takes the place of dressmaker's pins. And as you can see, everything is totally flat and in place. Now, if you've made a mistake and you need to reposition it, this is perfectly safe to do so. It will lift up and you can move it across, move it down, do whatever it is you need to do. But that is how to use wonder tape. I'm going to do the second side off camera. You don't need to see the second side because it's exactly the same as the first, and that's just repetitious. So as you can see, the second side is attached using the wonder tape. We're just going to go over to the sewing machine and machine it. So this machine is a standard straight stitch machine. It does not have a built-in dual feed mechanism. The stitch length is set at 3 millimeters, and there is a ballpoint needle in situ. You need to use a ballpoint needle if ever you are sewing knitwear, because it helps to form the stitches the way that the knitwear fibres are actually made. If you have an attachment called a walking foot to put on your machine, then by all means use that. I do have a walking foot for this machine, but I'm not going to use it today. And another way that you can help to avoid puckering is to reduce the pressure of the foot here. And not all machines have the adjustable pressure mechanism. This particular machine does, and what I'm going to do is just move this up just to show you where it is. And on this machine it's here, so if I zoom back in, you can see, or just about see, that here, this red marker, I'm going to reduce it even further, and it's on 1. For standard sewing, this is normally on 3.5. And what that's going to do is, if I zoom back down, move the camera back down, what that's going to do is it will apply pressure, it will keep some pressure on the foot here, but it will be a lot less, so therefore it will actually help the fabric not to pucker as it's going under the machine. Now, on other machines, you won't find it in the same place. You may find it inside the cover here, and it might be a dial, for instance, that still has numbers 1, 2 and 3, and you can just turn it down. Some machines don't have it at all. So the needle here is right on the edge of the extension band. The foot is right alongside the edge of the extension band, the long side of the extension band, and of course the zip teeth are very close up to the side of the band here. Now, some people will say that you need to be using a zipper foot. I don't agree, because especially with knitwear, because the reason being is that you need some movement here, some free play on this side, so the zip teeth can slide under. And with knitwear, what can happen is that very often this side, the knit side, can actually get caught up in the teeth of the zipper, and it won't be able to be freely moving up and down. Zipper foots are very, very useful, but not for this particular purpose. They are much more suitable for woven fabrics. So we're going to just start off, just a few stitches. I always leave the needle down, reverse back a bit, and then we just go forward, and you just keep everything in line, and you go all the way to the top. So as we come to the top here, what I'm going to do is just fold this part of the tape inwards. So what will happen is that it will be caught underneath, and it won't be caught on the reverse side of the zip, so it won't be scratching the person who wears it. And then you just go down to the end and finish off. And then you back tack and do the other side. So when you are starting a zip in knitwear, then you must always start from the same end. So as you saw with the other side, I started from the rib end of the garment, and of course for this side I'm still starting from the rib end of the garment. And you need to go up just for a few centimeters, so then you can just move the zip pull past it, and then you just carry on as we did with the previous side. And once again, we're coming to the top here, so we just lift up, move that under, and carry on. So here we are, the zip is in place. As you can see, the whole garment is totally flat, and the zip is working perfectly. And these are the two halves. Both halves now remain flat. You cannot see any rippling at all. And I'm now going to show you method 2. If you're using a cardigan pattern as I have here, what I've done is, just to demonstrate, I've pinned the front neck edge to the ironing board. This is the cut and sew neck edge, which is why you've got some overlocking stitches there. Ordinarily, with a cardigan, you have a pattern that tells you to knit up to a certain point, and then you would attach a band from here outwards. For this particular style, I didn't want to put the extra band on, so what I've done is I added some extra needles, and that will give me the extra width needed that would otherwise be taken up by the band. So before you use the overlocker to actually put the zip in, you still need to do the pre-preparation beforehand, as we did when we used the flat machine. And we're going to be using the Wonder Tape again, only this time what we're going to be doing is taping the right sides of the zip to the right sides of the garment. And what's going to happen is that we're going to be taping it that way, so the tape will be going along here, it will be stuck down to the garment that side, overlocked along these edges, and then it will end up being folded in that way. Now, as you can see, I have already put some overlocking stitches down the outer edge. But don't start panicking about that, because I haven't actually taken anything off the edge. I've only done that to stabilize the edge. And the reason why is because, as you all know, when you do some knitting, knitting actually curls inwards really, really badly. And when you are applying a zip to an edge that doesn't have any extension as it did when we used the flat machine, you are at much greater risk of the garment puckering. As I said in the introduction, you are actually putting something inflexible onto something flexible. Never the twain shall meet. So in order to overcome that, you need this edge not to stretch out of shape. And these overlocking stitches really will help that. Now, if you're thinking, oh, it's going to be too bulky because of this extra overlocking stitches there, don't panic about that, because when you actually put the zip in, you will be removing them under the machine. So the zipper tape is on the edge of the garment, just inside the edge of the overlocking. It's not stretched at all. And as I've just said to you, that's really been helped by the edge of the serging that I've done. I've left the margin of 5 centimeters each end of the wonder tape. And as you've noticed, this particular time, the zipper is 10 centimeters longer than the actual garment. And that's really, really important. And I'll show you why as we go along. And you need to have the zipper pull right towards the end of the zip, so at the neck edge, before you actually start sewing. And that's really important, and I'll tell you why as we go along. So I'm just going to secure the other side of the zip, and then we'll be at the machine. So for any knitwear that you are putting under the overlocker, you want the stitch length set at 2 and the differential feed, if your machine has that capability, set at 1.5. With overlockers that have differential feed, there are 2 separate sets of feed dogs, one at the front and one at the back. When the differential feed setting is at number 1, they will both move at the same speed. When the differential feed is set at less than 1, these front feed dogs will move slower than the rear ones. And what will happen is that the fabric will be pulled tight, and it will prevent the material from puckering. When the differential feed is set greater than 1, these front feed dogs move faster than the rear ones, and that prevents materials that are made out of knit or stretch or jersey, whichever term you want to use, from stretching out of shape. Now, although that these feed dogs will move at different speeds, depending on the setting that you have your dial, the machine will always run at the same speed. So in order to put the zipper in using the overlocker, I have put in the special purpose foot, sometimes known as the all-purpose foot. This has 2 channels, one on the top here if you want to do beading work, and the other underneath here. It's the same size channel, but it's just inverted, and you can use that to insert zippers, or if you want to do some piping. And what we're going to do is literally put the zipper in, and the teeth of the zipper will slide under the channel like that. So we're at the front opening of one of the sides of the body warmer. The stitch length I have moved up to 2.5. The differential feed remains at 1.5, and this is a 4-thread system. This will not work on a 3-thread system because you need to sew the seam at the same time. And you need to start off at an angle because the zip stop will not go under this groove in this particular foot. So I'll show you how to deal with that at the end. You just go along keeping the zip teeth in this groove here, and as you can see, or you may not be able to see, but this blade is now removing the edge of the securing overlocking stitches that I put on earlier on. And you just go all the way to the top. You don't need to go at the speed of lightning. You just need to keep it at a slow, steady pace. So now we're approaching the very top, the neck edge of the body warmer, and this is why you need to have a zip that is actually extending beyond the edge of the garment by 10 centimeters at least, and that the zip pull is at the very top. It's because you won't be able to slide this past this all-purpose foot, so you need to carry on going past the edge of the top of the zipper, and I'll show you how that happens. And then all you do is you go off at an angle like that, and then you snip off in the normal way. So now what you do is the remaining side, and to do that you're going to have to, because you need to go from the same direction as the first side, which is the bottom of the body warmer, you will have the wrong side of the garment facing you, so you will be putting these zip teeth in to this groove here blind. So you start off by just aligning it up with the groove there, and then you pop the bottom edge of the body warmer back down, making sure, again, just double checking before you start, that the zip teeth is under the groove. You raise the presser foot and away you go. Now this isn't as difficult as it sounds, because it's quite an easy thing to feel where these zip teeth are in line with this groove. So away you go. And as before, you keep going just at a normal pace, and you go all the way to the top of the zip. Again, keep your fingers in line where the zip teeth are and making sure it's going under the groove. The advantage of this particular side is, of course, that you will see the original overlocking edge is being removed by the knife. And just to prove my point, we have come out exactly in line with the zip teeth, and just as before, you go off at an angle. So as you can see, the zip is now in. It's laying totally flat with not 1 millimeter of puckering at all. And although it looks flat when you have got the garment lying on a board, you always need to check to make sure that the zip is lying flat when you have it standing upright on a mannequin. And I'll be showing you that later. So just to show you that now that the zip is actually working perfectly, there we go. And that's what it looks like on the inside. There, as you can see, and there's the overlocking there, and that works absolutely perfectly. So the last thing to do is to put the neckband on and to finish the end off, which I'll be showing you later. So finally, just to neaten off the end of where the zipper is, which was where we had to start at an angle for the first 2 centimeters worth of overlock stitches. If you want to, you can actually put a few hand stitches there, or you could use the flat machine and just go from there to there. Alternatively, what you could do from the right side is just to bring that in like that, so you can ensure that your rib is neat and straight. Just go from there to there with either the flat machine or with some hand stitches. As the flat machine is already threaded up with the same color as this one, because we did method 1, I'm just going to take the flat machine and go from there to there. And there is the end that I have just sewn up from there to there, and it is now in place and perfectly straight. So here is the zip inserted using method 1. As you can see, the zip is totally flat against the body. There is no rippling in and out as you sometimes get. This jacket is following the anatomical curves of the mannequin perfectly. And from the side, as you can see, the zip again is totally flat. So this is method 2. The zipper is in place and everything is totally flat. I'll just turn the mannequin round, and again, as you can see, if I just turn it back a bit actually, and again, as you can see, there isn't any rippling at all. And both methods produce a really nice flat seam where your zips are. It's just entirely down to you which particular method you choose.